Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Billboard Comics, another installment of our sub-feature that I like to call Growing Up Comics. This is where I take a walk down memory lane about all the various and sundry um, things in my past that stayed with me all these years and helped form me as a comic book collector. This time I'm going to go on to something a little special. It's a piece of advertising. I might do a larger one for a wider range of advertisers. But right now, what I want to focus on is advertising for a company called Heroes World. Back in the 70s and 80s, uh, there was a distributor of comic book paraphernalia in New Jersey called Heroes World. I think it might have actually been distributed comic books as well, but like the purpose, our purpose, they were advertising like comic related items in the comic books. Um, and for me, usually they were like drawn by Joe Kubert, um, which is kind of cool because some of the products they have, like Joe Kubert is mostly known as a DC guy. He didn't do much Marvel stuff, at least not while I was collecting that I could see. I think he did do some Punisher work um, during my time as a collector. But for the most part, it's like he did all the ads in there. And if there's a product for Spider-Man or Captain America or Thor, he would do the artwork for it. Or somebody else from like the Kubert School of comic book art. Um, what this was is like basically me growing up as a poor kid in the trailer park in northeastern Pennsylvania. It was like a kind of a form of exquisite torture. It was good and bad. Um, Good because I was able to see all the various and sundry different comic book paraphernalia you could get. Um, they usually did advertisements for the Mego figures, and you're able to see them without actually seeing the stuff on the back. Be able to see all the play sets and stuff they have, like Wayne Foundation Tower. Like I never saw that in anywhere I went ever, but it was in the Heroes World, so I imagine you could buy it. A battle van, Joker's battle van. Um, you know, Wonder Woman's invisible jet. A whole bunch of other stuff that you never see around or very rarely see around. However, it's like you're bombarded with all this stuff that you want to buy and not being able to buy it. So it's kind of like, especially as a kid, because like you're not only go so far, especially when a big amount of it's going towards um, your comic book selection every month. Um, but this it didn't just keep itself to toys. This had a whole wide range of stuff like this. There is like it had clothing and stuff like this. And this one thing I'm going to take a picture of and show it up here is art code clothing I desperately wanted as a kid. Um, Most of the clothing they had from here are basically like basic designs, like the Hulk on the front cover with them saying Hulk Smash or something like that, and or Spider Man there with like friendly neighborhood Spider Man, basic stuff, not really breaking any kind of stuff, not gaudy by any chance, very demure, very mindful. You know, wear the same comic book T-shirt that you wear to work as you do to the interview. Um, but nonetheless, sorry, that's a stupid tangent. I apologize. But there was one that had it was a Captain America one, and I saw this in real life one time. One of my kids in the neighborhood, not really a close friend, he already had it, and it was like, wow, cool. It was a Ringer T-shirt, but the actual T-shirt was made of panels from a Captain America comic book. I don't know if it's from one comic book or a number of comic books, but I always wanted that one, but I could never find it, or at least if it was around, it was too expensive for my parents to buy clothes. I was kind of like the you know cheapo cheap department store brand comic books. I wasn't really getting the whole brand name top end kind of stuff, except for very very special occasions. But I would see this there, and I'd be like, you know, gobsmacked, and you know, going through the moon. But they also had stuff like uh, posters and stuff like this. There's like, back in the 70s they had, doing hippy dippy tune in, turn on, and fade out or whatever it's called. They had blacklight posters there, which I always thought was cool. But then again, like I couldn't really afford the posters other than the blacklight to put on it. Um, and now I think I don't really think of Fly with the Wife. Hey, can I have this room be completely dark except for a blacklight onto this Iron Man poster? No. We got to do laundry in there. We had to turn on the light, so we had to keep it on. And she's completely right. But the fact was, it had a whole bunch of stuff you'll be able to see, like, wow. And you go through, see, like for me personally, I got to see through, like, oh, like, wow, I'd love to have that for my wall. Oh my gosh, it's the entire Fantastic Four on a poster. I haven't seen that anywhere, because like, yeah, every place around had posters back in that day. You had every department store or you know record store stuff had an assortment of posters uh, in like a kind of like you know this on display, like in these like kind of like individual panels that you just flip through to find what you want. But most of the things were, Farrah Fawcett in her bathing suit, or like some sports star or something like that, or you wouldn't actually get like all the hot TV vixens today, Victoria Principal, Heather Thomas, and stuff like that in there. Which as a 5-year-old kid, I wasn't interested in at all. Changed after years, of course, but nonetheless, like at the time, I really wish I'd had like a big Spider Woman poster instead of a poster of you know Christy McNichol on there. Um, that's a lie. I had a big crush on Christy McNichol when I was a kid. I actually bought one of those posters and it was on my wall, so I'm lying. Um, Suzanne Summers, that's one I wouldn't mind getting, but I wouldn't go out of the way to get it. I'd rather have a comic book stuff there. They also advertised for this stuff a whole bunch of like other stuff, not just comic book stuff. Um, I remember like they did a whole toy line for the Black Hole TV movie from Disney. There's a sci-fi stuff that came out after Star Wars, and part of many that came out there in the hopes of like trying to cash in on some of the swag of Star Wars. Um, but it was drawn by Joe Kubert. So you're going to see Joe Kubert drawing Ernest Borgnine. And I am weird, but looking back at it, I saw like the ad for it, and like I got a kick out of it. It's like Joe Kubert drawing Ernest Borgnine. It's never thought that I'd ever see that happen, but it did. Um, but these would appear like usually full page ads in the comic book stuff. They're listing like a whole bunch of various and sundry stuff in like that they have to offer, and like I I'd spend sometimes I'd spend as much time looking at the ads as I would looking at the actual comic book. I'd read a comic book, but then I'd look at the ads and say like just um, I don't know if anybody else who grew up like in meager means would do this. They would look at the toys and they would imagine playing with the toys. I would imagine playing with the toys, like if I had the toys, but I don't have the toys. I've never had the toys because I can't afford them. If you did that, or put in the comments, or you think I'm crazy, tell me gently. Excuse me, Bill. You're crazy. Um, the fact of the matter is was kind of like interesting to look at, and like good to view on that. But in addition to that, I just recently realized, like in the last decade or so, that they actually came out with an actual catalog, a catalog of all these various and sundry wares. I think it is called the Heroes World Catalog, and it was a comic book form, a comic book shape. Um, I think I actually have one of these. I think I got one of them in one of the flat rate boxes I got off of uh, the Gotham Thrift Comics. Um, but it was like basically all the ads that you ever saw in the comic book all in one place, back to back to back to back of comic book goodness, like the Captain America car with this shield up front that the Mego Captain America could drive in. Um, you know, a remote controlled buggy that had Batman, Superman, Robin, and Aquaman in it that you could control um, with a remote control. It's a wired remote control, so you had to walk behind it, but you could make it drive, which I didn't even realize existed before I saw like it in one of these catalogs. And I went onto eBay to see how much they were selling for it, and I saw only one come up, and they're wanted like almost $1,300 for it. So if you have that in your closet or up in your attic, and it's still in good working condition, you can leave the batteries in it until the inside became a big, corroded, crusty mess. Polish it out, bring it down, and you might be able to afford you know, a pretty, at least part of a pretty nice vacation with that, um, if you so choose. But then again, like that's how what you're offering on eBay. That doesn't always mean that what they're actually be able to get for it. Uh, but it's just amazing to go through it and see now, looking back. When I looked at it there, it's like, oh, a way for me to like escape and have possibilities of maybe one day being able to afford them. And I think this is like a reason why like a lot of people of my generation, Generation X, um, usually go back to nostalgia and pick up stuff that they're old and stuff like that, and do it now because especially if you grew up of meager means, you didn't have the ability to buy, say, like a you know a, a vinyl copy of Thriller, um, or anything of that sort, or even have a really good photograph. So now that you have money and you're making your own money, you're in a comfortable situation. You go back and you buy it, and that's why I got that whole feeling of like that kind of euphoria looking back at this stuff and like looking up on eBay to see if I could actually afford it, and finding out no, I still can't afford it. I didn't feel like I was a kid again. Um, but the fact is, you get to see like all the stuff that you missed out on, and now that you come back, you are able to get it. And this is why you have like this has been talked about, like you see toy collecting shows, or um, Storage Wars, or Pawn Stars. They mention this a lot about the whole world of like nostalgia when it comes to collecting, which is always good and always fun and always good to look at. But looking through like it now as an older man, it's just like you have a wave of nostalgia. Like, ooh, I remember that. Ooh, I had that. I didn't know like they said that. Oh, it's amazing. It's a good way to spend a couple minutes of your time to actually go through that, and it boosts your spirits, and it's really nostalgic, and it brings back a whole bunch of memories of your time back then as a kid, hoping to get these at one time, and just seeing all the various and different things that you forgot existed that you at one time wanted again. Um, I think one thing I did, I actually end up getting one Christmas, or one for my birthday, from things that I saw in as an end, is they had a toy that was called Incredible Hulk Blow Up Muscles, which I thought was great because I was a fan of the TV series. And it was these plastic stuff you put underneath your shirt, and it had like a bellows uh, that you can hold on to, and then you just and it pumps up underneath your clothes, and you know it on paper it seemed like it was going to be the most exciting thing ever. And I think I played with it once because either you had to have really torn shirts and your parents would never let you tear a shirt that was really good, or you would have to actually it'd be signed underneath there and it wouldn't actually be fully inflated and stuff like that, as I recall from being like wearing it for a couple times. Um, and of course, you always have the guilt trip because I come from a Irish Catholic, half Irish Catholic household on my mother's side. Oh, we bought it for you, and you didn't. You shouldn't have an accent. I'll give her an accent anyhow because you know what, you don't know her. Um, we buy it for you, and you didn't even play with it, boyo. Um, yeah, if you knew my mother, you know that's not her accent, and but it's funny to hear her thinking that tone of voice. But that's another kind of thing about this, like stuff like this. Um, Having a look at it and using your imagination, the toys are much better in your imagination, even back then and looking at it now. Uh, how about you? Do you remember the Heroes World catalogs? Did you order off of anything off of them? Did you get anything off them? Did you work for them? Did you remember the ads? Do you remember like a particular toy that you saw that you really really wanted more than anything else? Did you order something off there that wasn't good, and you have even here almost 50 years later buyer's remorse? Um, Put it in the comment section. We talk about, have a discussion and stuff like that. Um, yeah, and yeah. If you like this post, hit the thumbs up. If you'd like to see more of these kind of posts, hit the subscribe button. I do these walks down memory lane every Wednesday, but I also have other segments like a Girlfriend's Guide to Comic Books on every Tuesday, and Guidelines every Friday. Guidelines is about the new releases for the coming week, and the Girlfriend's Guide is to help not just girlfriends, not just women, men, women, dogs, children, Abercrombie and Fish models, anybody who loves somebody who loves comics, a guide of how to participate in the hobby with them. Um, so, yeah, so subscribe to that. It doesn't cost anything. It's actually free, but it helps promote the channel and also helps let me know exactly what content you like and which I should steer towards or steer against or stay away from. Um, that's it for now. I'll leave you now, and I will, until next time, keep on collecting.